Coming in at a number 10 spot, we have the Devil's Tower. This brick tower was built in 1910 by millionaire sugar importer Manuel Rionda. He claims he built it for his late wife, Harriet Rionda, in order to give her a better view of the skyline. However, nowadays many believe his wife's spirit is stuck inside of the tower. According to the local legend, Harriet spotted Manuel with another woman one day, and despite the fact that she may have suspected cheating for over years, she still went off to the tower and took her own life out of grief. Since her alleged suicide, there has been several stories of hauntings, including accounts from persons who claim they were propelled by an eerie force. After all these tragedies, the tower was eventually named into the Devil's Tower, and I could say this name fits pretty well. At a number 9 spot, we have the Jersey Devil. Did you know that the mascot of the NHL team, New Jersey Devils, is based on a real creature that used to terrorize the state for years? Yeah. They are described as kangaroo-like creatures with the face of a horse, the head of a dog, and bat-like wings, horns, and tails. Sightings have occurred for the past 200 years, and it all started when a resident of Estiville was going to give birth for the 13th time, which she didn't plan for. So in disgust, she yelled out, quote, "Let it be the devil," and when it came out, it actually turned out to be a baby devil who ended up screeching before flying out the window, and that is now known as the New Jersey Devil. And I know that story might sound a bit crazy, but regardless, during the years, New Jersey has had unidentified creatures raiding chicken coops and killing livestock. At number 8 spot, we have the Watcher. This story has been made into a full-length show, but the fact that it was a true story makes it that much creepier. Located in Westfield, New Jersey at 657 Boulevard is the infamous Watcher House. It all started when a young couple named Derek and Maria Broadus bought the home back in 2014. The house is pretty old to begin with, so they immediately began renovations to make it into their dream home. However, shortly after they were official owners of the home, they would receive several letters from a person only known as the Watcher. The first letter read, quote, "657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in 1920s, and my father watched it in the 1960s. It is now my time." Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out. Eventually, the couple would get more and more letters to the point when the police needed to be involved. And when they finally sold the home, they never really uncovered who the Watcher truly was. At a number 7 spot, we have the Hindenburg Hangar. On May 6, 1937, a German passenger airship known as the LZ-129 Hindenburg was engulfed in flames and destroyed in an attempt to dock with its mooring mast at the Lakehurst Naval Air Station. Inside the airship was 97 people, and after the fire consumed the hangar, there were a total of 35 fatalities. This news eventually broke out and would immediately mark the end of the airship era. And even though the accident occurred almost 90 years ago, it's said that the air station is haunted by the ghosts of the former passengers of the Hindenburg. More specifically, this supernatural activity is mostly found inside of Hangar 1 or the Hindenburg Hangar. Here, some visitors claim to smell the scent of burning flesh as if the fire accident is happening all over again. Overnight workers of the air station also claim to hear someone walking inside of the hangar when it's confirmed that no one else is there. They usually leave the hangar alone due to these reasons, but regardless, that hangar has a very bad vibe to it, and I wouldn't be surprised that it's somewhat cursed in some way. At number 6 spot, we have Clinton Road. First of all, this is probably the only road in the US where I read that many haunting experiences where I wouldn't even want to consider driving on this road at all. I'm not even lying. This road went through it all. Satanic rituals, UFOs, mythical creatures, ghostly Camaros, and even hate groups. After all of this history, it makes sense why many people consider this to be the most haunted road in the United States. However, the most infamous story about this road has to be the Ghost Boy Bridge. So apparently, if you place a quarter in the middle of the road at midnight where the yellow line is at one of the bridges over Clinton Brook, otherwise known as the Dead Man's Curve, shortly after, the ghost of a boy will appear right in front of you. Story goes that this is a boy who drowned in the river nearby, and if he appears in front of you, he may push you near to the bridge where he was murdered on. In the hump of our list, we have the Shades of Death Road. Located in Warren County, this is yet another terrifying road to travel on in New Jersey. You're really better off taking a boat in this state, I swear. It's a 2-lane rural road that is around 7 miles in length. Legend of the road tells us of a time many years ago when a car full of teenagers were driving down this road to get to their prom. However, the road was extremely slippery that night, and when the car took a sharp turn, the car lost control and fell into a ditch, killing every single teenager in the vehicle. Nowadays, if you find that this road is very slippery, especially during a rainstorm, chances are you may catch a glimpse of one of the girl teenagers still wearing her prom dress. and some have even picked her up only to find that she disappears out of nowhere before arriving at her destination. The forest around this road has also been the site of many grisly murders and disappearances, and after many countless reports, this street was eventually given the name Death. At a number 4 spot, we have the Pines Barrens. Over 1 million acres and 7 counties in New Jersey make up the densely forested Pine Barrens. During the colonial era, the region was home to numerous enterprises, including paper mills and even sawmills. When coal was eventually discovered to the west in Pennsylvania, people eventually left the mills and neighboring communities, leaving behind ghost towns and some claim a few paranormal wanderers. The Jersey Devil is without a doubt the most well-known inhabitant of the Pine Barrens. The monster, which had leathery wings and hooves, was said to have been Deborah Lee's 14th child and born in 1735. Since then has been terrorizing South Jersey homeowners and killing cattle after flying up the Lee's chimney and into the Pine Barrens. Eventually a bounty was out for the devil, but no one was able to capture it, and has since remained a mystery ever since. At a number 3 spot, we have the Flanders Hotel. Alongside Jersey Shore is the infamous Flanders Hotel on 11th and Boardwalk in Ocean City. This hotel was first completed in 1923, and after its opening, it immediately became very famous among tourists and locals alike. I mean, it had property alongside the boardwalk and was very modern compared to the other hotels in the time. However, as the guests started to pile up at this hotel, many would be leaving with an experience they didn't expect. It was found that there was hundreds of reports claiming that the hotel had supernatural activity within it. However, the most common story is that of a ghost of a young woman looking for something in the hotel. Many people claim to see this woman in white wearing a wedding gown who always seemed to be looking for something on the floor. The story goes that this woman was named Emily, and during World War I, her husband never ended up returning. So it's said that her spirit is still at the hotel in hopes that her husband will finally return and she will find the ring that he was going to give her. At a number 2 spot, we have the Cave Grave. In the town of Newton lies a quiet small graveyard situated alongside Route 621. Though the majority of the stones from the 19th and 20th century are upright limestone or granite, there is one memorial that is quite unique from the rest. It is a headstone located about 50 yards outside the cemetery's boundaries, which actually closes the entrance to a cave. Inscribed on the stone are the names of James, Margaret, and J. Howard Lewis, and the year 1909. Story goes that all 3 of these people were young children when they passed away. It all started when Margaret went into the cave and eventually got lost. So the boys decided to go in as well to save their sister, but they would meet the same type of fate and disappear into the cave's abyss. After several rescue missions were done, the bodies of the children were just never found. Many cave explorers claim that the cave has some of the most supernatural activity within it. Many people claim to hear the voices of these children, while others claim that Margaret is haunting the cave by appearing to explorers in her dirty dress. All the way at a number 1 spot, we have the Trenton Psychiatric Hospital. Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, originally named New Jersey State Lunatic Asylum, has a long history of helping mentally ill patients and even harming them. The hospital opened in 1848 and welcomed 86 patients. The first superintendent, Horace, was a good man and provided excellent care for all the people in his custody. Then it took a turn for the worse when Dr. Henry Cotton took over. The doctor believed he could cure mental illness by removing organs. He believed that infections caused mental illness, so he tested it by removing his patients' teeth, limbs, or any body part with slight signs of infection. This would cause dozens of patients to pass away, and many claim that you can hear the screams of his patients inside of the walls of the hospital to this day. Others even claim to see the apparition of Dr. Cotton himself and other ghosts with missing limbs. Unfortunately, after his passing in 1933, a review found his medical procedures caused 45% of his patients to perish. The irony was, the doctor was clinically insane as well. At a number 10 spot, we have the Tommyknockers. The legend of the Tommyknockers originates from the state of New Mexico. The legend follows a group of miners when they stumbled upon a strange and powerful object buried deep within the earth. As they began to excavate it, they were overcome by its strange energy, which transformed them into these bizarre, violent creatures. These creatures were known as the Tommyknockers and were infamous for their ability to knock on the walls and ceilings of mines, warning other miners to stay away. The legend goes on to say that the Tommyknockers were incredibly powerful, with superhuman strength and the ability to control the minds of those around them. They all roamed the mines, causing destruction and mayhem wherever they went. Despite their fearsome reputation, some believe that the Tommyknockers could be reasoned with, and attempted to communicate with them in order to understand their motivations. While some people, on the other hand, believe that the legend of the Tommyknockers is based on a real event that occurred in New Mexico, which had a bunch of trapped miners. minors. However, others viewed a purely fictional tale. Over the years, many people have come forward to speak about their encounter with the Tommyknocker, which only adds to this creature's mystery more. At a number 9 spot, we have a witch's heart. The legend of the witch's heart in New Mexico tells the story of a powerful witch who lived in the forest near a small village. She was said to be able to cast spells and control the elements, and many people were afraid of her because of that. One day, the witch fell in love with a young man from the village, and she cast a spell on him to make him fall in love in return. The young man, however, did not want to be with this witch and tried to resist her spell at all costs. The witch became very angry and threatened to destroy the village if the young man did not return her love. Talk about needy. The villagers, who were afraid for their lives, pleaded with the young man to give in to the witch's demands, but the young man was brave and refused to give into it. Now the witch was extremely pissed, and she decided to cast a powerful spell that caused the ground to shake and the trees to sway. She summoned a storm that raged for 3 days and 3 nights, causing destruction and chaos throughout the entire village. Finally, the young man, with the help of other villagers, was able to confront the witch and break her spell. The witch's heart was filled with so much anger and hatred that it just turned to stone, and she was never seen again. The villagers say that if you listen closely on a stormy night, you can still hear the witch's heart beating beneath the ground, a reminder of the power of love and the dangers of anger and hatred. At a number 8 spot, we have Haunted Mesa. The legend of the Haunted Mesa in New Mexico dates back to the early 1800s. According to the legend, the mesa was once home to a Native American tribe who lived in harmony with the land and its natural resources. But as time passed by, the tribe grew greedy and began to exploit the land. They would strip it of its resources and cause great harm to the environment because of it. As a punishment for their actions, the spirits of the land rose up and cursed the tribe, causing them to be consumed by a terrible darkness. The tribe was never seen again, and the mesa has been haunted ever since by the spirits of the land. They are said to still roam the area at night, searching for those who dare to desecrate the land. Many people have reported strange and eerie occurrences on the Haunted Mesa, including ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and mysterious lights. Some have even claimed to see the ghosts of the Native American tribe still wandering the mesa in search of redemption. Despite these stories, the Haunted Mesa remains a popular destination for hikers and adventurers who are drawn to its rugged beauty and eerie atmosphere. Some say the spirits of the land are still watching over the mesa, protecting it from those who would seek to harm it. So if you hike here, stride carefully. At a number 7 spot, we have a Witch's Bridge. The Witch's Bridge is a legendary structure said to be located in New Mexico, although the exact location is unknown. According to the legend, the bridge was built by a woman who was shunned by the community because they believed she was a witch. The woman, who was determined to get her revenge, constructed this bridge using her own blood and bone, imbuing it with dark magic as well. As the story goes, anyone who crosses the bridge will be cursed with bad luck and misfortune for their entire lives. Some say that the bridge is guarded by the spirit of the witch, who emerges at night to haunt and terrorize hikers. Others believe that the curse can only be lifted by performing a complex ritual at the side of the bridge. Despite the legend, there is actually no evidence of a bridge matching the description in New Mexico. It is likely the story is a tall tale or a piece of folklore, rather than a true account of events. However, that does not stop people from being intrigued by the legend and people going out searching for this bridge. At a number 6 spot, we have a man in the black hat. The man in the black hat is a mysterious figure who is said to haunt the deserts of New Mexico. Some say that the man in the black hat was a gunfighter or a bandit who roamed the desert, preying on travelers and settlers who ventured too far from civilization. Others claim that he was a ghost or a spirit haunting the land and seeking revenge on those who had wronged him in life. Despite the many different variations of the legend, one thing remains constant. The man in the black hat was a fearsome and dangerous figure, feared by all those who came in contact with him. He is said to wear a black hat, a long coat, and a pair of guns by his side, and was said to be incredibly fast and extremely deadly with a gun. There's even one story of him single-handedly defeating a group of 10 raiders in less than a minute in an attempt to just save some settlers. Despite his heroic deeds, however, the man in the black hat was never seen again, and his fate remains a mystery to this day. Some say that he simply vanished into the deserts, never to be seen again, while others believe that he met his end at the hands of another enemy. Maybe he finally found peace and moved on to the afterlife. Haven't we thought about that? In the hump of our list, we have the hanging tree. The legend of the hanging tree in New Mexico dates back to the 1800s, when the area was a wild and lawless frontier. According to the legend, the hanging tree was a large tree located in the center of town, where criminals and outlaws were brought to justice by being hanged from its sturdy branches. The most famous story associated with the hanging tree is that of a notorious outlaw named Billy the Kid, who is said to have been hanged from the tree after being captured by a posse of vigilantes. Despite its reputation as a place of justice and punishment, the hanging tree was also said to be cursed, and many people believe that anyone who were hung from this tree would be doomed to haunt the town for eternity. Over the time, the tree became a symbol of fear and dread, and people avoided it at all costs, even during the day. Eventually, the town decided to cut down the hanging tree and burn it to the ground in an effort to rid the town of its dark history and the supposed curse that was said to be associated with it. Today, all that remains of the hanging tree is a small plaque on the spot where it once stood. At a number 4 spot, we have a witch's ladder. The legend of the witch's ladder in New Mexico tells the story of a powerful witch who lived in the mountains and was known for casting spells and curses on those who crossed her. One day, a group of travelers stumbled upon her cabin and asked for shelter for the night. The witch agreed, but she secretly cast a curse on them. Desperate to break the curse, the travelers sought help from a wise woman who told them that they must climb to the top of the mountain and gather a handful of the witch's hair in order to break the curse for good. The travelers managed to do this, but the witch chased after them using all of the spells she knew. Using the hair as a talisman, the travelers outran the witch and made their way back down the mountain, where they burned the hair and finally broke the curse. From that day on, the mountain was known as the witch's ladder. Despite the fact that the legend of the witch's ladder is just a story, it continues to be told and retold in the American Southwest, reminding us of the power and determination and the importance of standing up to those who seek to do us harm. At number 3 spot, we have the curse of the full moon. The curse of the full moon is a popular tale told to many in New Mexico, and it involves a powerful medicine man who placed a curse on the land to protect it from the actions of early European settlers. The legend goes that the medicine man was a powerful shaman who had the ability to communicate with the spirits of the land and the animals that live there. He was deeply connected to the natural world, and he would have a great reverence for the land and its inhabitants. However, when the European settlers arrived, they began to disregard the sacredness of the land and its inhabitants. They would cut down trees, hunt down the animals, and they would pollute the waters. The medicine man was outraged by the settlers' actions, and he decided to curse the land with a very powerful spell. And whenever the moon was full, the curse was said to be at its strongest, causing even more misfortune for those who dared to defy the spirits. Over time, the legend became well known throughout the region, and this is when people began to fear the power of the spirits and the curse. At a number 2 spot, we have the ghost lights. The legend of the ghost lights in New Mexico dates back to the time of the Native Americans who inhabited the region. According to the legend, the ghost lights were spirits of the dead who roamed the earth in search of their loved ones. These spirits were said to be the souls of warriors who were killed in battle, or of women and children who had died of disease or other natural causes. The ghost lights were said to appear as glowing orbs of light that floated through the air, moving silently and without any apparent direction. Many people have claimed to have seen the ghost lights and described them as eerie and settling, and some even reported feeling a sense of fear or dread when the lights were present. Despite this, however, many people also found that the ghost lights to be fascinating and mysterious, and they often went out of their way to try and catch a glimpse of these elusive spirits. In the recent years, the legend of the ghost lights in New Mexico has taken on a new dimension, with some people claiming to have captured video footage or photographs of the light. So if you guys want to see, go search it up on Google, and I promise you, you'll find one photo with it. At a number 1 spot, we have the Taos hum. The Taos hum is a mysterious low-frequency sound that has been reported in the town of Taos, New Mexico. It is described as a faint droning sound that is similar to the hum of a distant engine or the drone of a bee. Some people claim to hear the hum constantly, while others hear it occasionally. The source of the Taos hum is unknown, and there are many theories about what could be causing it. Some believe that it is a natural phenomenon caused by geological activity or atmospheric conditions. Others speculate that it is the result of human activities such as underground military bases or secret experiments. One of the most popular theories of this is caused by aliens. According to the theory, the hum is a signal or communication from an extraterrestrial civilization. Some people even claim to have experienced strange encounters or sightings of unidentified flying objects in the area where the hum is heard. Despite the many theories, no one has been able to definitely explain the Taos hum. The phenomenon remains a mystery and continues to fascinate and intrigue those who have experienced it. Some even claim that the hum has a strange, almost hypnotic effect on those who hear it, causing them to feel disoriented or dizzy.
number 10, Ghost of Stowe Lake. San Francisco's Golden Gate Park is home to one of the city's most famous ghosts. Stowe Lake is said to be haunted by the spirit of a woman who, after attempting to save her child, who fell in the water, drowned in the lake. Legend says that this woman, referred to as the White Lady, wanders the edges of Stowe Lake as she searches for her child. She can even be summoned by visitors. It's said that the most active area surrounding the lake is near the Pioneer Woman and Children's statue. Ghost seekers can summon the woman by calling out, White Lady, I have your baby," 3 times. If she believes you, the woman will appear before you and will ask for her baby back. The legend bewars both skeptics and believers from doing this, because if you tell her you have her baby, the woman will haunt you for the rest of your life. If you tell the woman you don't have her baby after summoning her, legend says she will drag you into Stowe Lake and you will suffer the same fate she did in the lake. Now at number 9, the Dark Watchers. This legend takes place in the Santa Lucia Mountains, which run from Avila Beach to Monterey. The Dark Watchers are said to be giant phantoms that resemble humans and lurk inside the mountain. Legend goes that the Dark Watchers can only be seen at midnight, as they stand at the mountain's tops. They've only been claimed to be seen staring out into the wide space below the mountains, before completely vanishing into thin air. Coming in at number 8, Monster of Elizabeth Lake. Elizabeth Lake in California is said to have an evil presence below the water's surface. Elizabeth Lake is just outside Lancaster in LA. It's said to have been created by the devil himself to keep his hellish pets. The urban legend says that the passageway to hell can be found if you swim deep into the lake. The first sighting of the monster of Elizabeth Lake dates back to 1880. The monster is said to have the neck of a giraffe, head of a bulldog, bat wings, estimated to be about 50 feet long, and smells of decay. Sightings of the monster of Elizabeth Lake continue to be reported and strike fear in the locals. Here at number 7, the hauntings of Turnbull Canyon. In the Puente Hills Preserve near Witter Turnbull Canyon is a popular hiking site in the preserve. It was previously referred to as Harakanuga, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, which translates to the place of the devil. According to the legend, the region is haunted by the Indians who were executed for not converting to Catholicism. Their spirits are believed to be lingering inside the depths of the canyon, waiting to get out. Many years later, Turnbull became the site of numerous satanic rituals held by people who mysteriously disappeared. What was left behind from the rituals were paranormal sightings and occurrences, reported by both locals and freaked out hikers. Taking number 6, the Billywhack Monster. Rumors of an alleged beast have been going on around since the 1940s at the site of the former Billywhack Dairy in Ventura County. August Rubel, a German national living in the United States during World War II, owned the dairy. It was rumored that August had a secret underground lab beneath the dairy, where he was working with the US government to build a super soldier for war. He returned to Germany in 1943 as he was supposedly working for the Allies. During the trip, August allegedly stepped on a German landmine and passed away. Years later, reports of a strange creature roaming the area where the now abandoned dairy stood started to surface. Many of these reports came from local high school students who told police that a large humanoid with goat-like horns and sharp claws was hurling rocks at their car. Halfway at number 5, Alcatraz Demon. San Francisco's Alcatraz Island has plenty of ghosts and disturbing rumors about its former inmates, one of which is the Alcatraz Demon. The story is that a prisoner was ranting about a demon in his cell. The guards ignored his cries, knowing that many of the prisoners were mentally ill and prone to seeing things. The next morning, the prisoner was found strangled in his cell, with no evidence or means that someone else had been in or out of the cell. There were also a lot of other ghost stories surrounding Alcatraz. Here at number 4, the Hollywood sign spirit. This is probably one of the most infamous urban legends in California. The Hollywood sign is said to be haunted by the early 1900s actress Peg Entwistle. When a possible career-ending review was published about one of her films, Peg climbed to the top of the sign's H and jumped off of it. She is said to haunt the sign and the surrounding area. The legend continues to state that she will appear to people hiking to the off-limits part of the sign where she had taken her life. Instead of the sweet Hollywood actress, what appears to these unfortunate people is a woman with a skeletal face and deep hollowed-out eyes. If those hikers are alone, she is said to somehow influence them to share her same fate. Now at number 3, Ghost Hills. Basic laws of gravity state that what goes up must come down. While in California, there are spots that are rumored to defy this basic truth. If you park at the base of a hill in a specified location and release your parking brake, your car will roll uphill. These spots are hard to find but are often accompanied by a legend as its explanation. A school bus broke down and the kids jumped out to push it up the hill, but lost control and the bus ran over them, taking their lives. Now they push cars up hills as ghosts. Here at number 2, Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is a serial killer who operated in Northern California in late 1960s. The Zodiac Killer took the lives of 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December 1968 and October 1969, operating in rural, urban, and suburban settings. 2 of his attempted victims fortunately did survive. The Zodiac himself, however, claimed to have taken the lives of 37 victims, and he has been linked to several other cold cases, some in Southern California or outside the state. The Zodiac made the name for himself in a series of taunting letters and cards that he mailed to regional newspapers, threatening execution sprees and bombings if they were not printed. Some of the letters included cryptograms or ciphers, in which the Zodiac claimed that he was collecting his victims as slaves for the afterlife. Of the 4 ciphers he produced, 2 remain unsolved, and only 1 was cracked in 2020. The Zodiac stopped written communications around 1974. The unusual nature of this case led to the international interest that has sustained throughout the years. The case also still remains open in the city of Vallejo, as well as in Napa County and Solano County. The California Department of Justice has maintained an open case file on the Zodiac since 1969. Although in late 2021, a team of specialists who investigate cold cases say they identified the Zodiac Killer as Gary Francis Post, who passed away in 2018. The team's years of digging uncovered new forensic evidence and photos from his darkroom. One image features a scar on the forehead of Gary's that matches a scar on the sketch of the Zodiac. It's insane that he stopped communication in 1974 and passed away in 2018, but they only identified him last year. Coming in at number 1, the Charman. The Charman's origin story is quite gruesome. A father and son were both caught in a house fire and horribly burnt in 1948. After the fire, the son became so mentally unstable that he executed his father. When the police found the son, he was so unrecognizably burnt, they didn't realize he was alive. So he ran away before they were able to arrest him for what he did to his father. The story goes that ever since then, the Charman can be spotted wandering the woods surrounding Ojai, occasionally approaching tents of innocent campers or pretending to be a hitchhiker and then attempting to attack them.
Number 10, the Red Lady of Huntingdon College. The Red Lady of Huntingdon College is a legendary ghost that is sent to haunt the former Pratt Hall dormitory at the Huntingdon College in Montgomery, Alabama. According to Wyndham and historian Daniel Barefoot, there have actually been 2 ghosts referred to as the Red Lady. The first Red Lady was described as a woman in a scarlet dress and parasol, who walked wordlessly in the halls of the women's dormitory, bathed in a red glow, due to her father's will specifying she attends her mother's alma mater. Martha was shy and unhappy and struggled to make friends at the college, leading her to become increasingly aloof and bitter. Despite the efforts of the dormitory president to befriend her, Martha remained isolated, often wandering into the rooms of other students and casting a chill upon groups. Her behavior grew increasingly strange as she would visit dormitories during the darkest hours of the night, never speaking but only staring into space as if in a trance. One evening after Martha had not been seen for the day, her former roommate found her dead in her room. It is believed that she had taken her own life, but rumors circulated that her ghost continued to haunt Pratt Hall. Students reported seeing her walking up and down the halls, opening and closing doors, and staring into space. The Red Lady's ghostly encounters continued for many years, and now she's become a well-known legend at the college and the entire state. Number 9, Deceased Children's Playground. The Deceased Children's Playground in Huntsville, Alabama is a pretty intimidating name for a seemingly innocent-looking playground. According to local lore, many children who died during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic in Huntsville were buried in Maple Hill Cemetery, which adjoins the playground. Some people believe that the spirits of these children come out to play in the playground after dark, which has led many to report of unexplained movements and ghostly sightings in the area. For those who don't know, the Spanish flu pandemic was a global disaster, killing an estimated 50 million people worldwide, including many in Huntsville, where the disease arrived on September 25, 1918. Within the 10 days, it had spread to the general population, and hospitals were filled with patients, leading to doctors working long shifts to try to ease their suffering. As a result, many families were quarantined in their homes, and to prevent the spread of the disease, parents told children to keep the windows closed. This resulted in the rhyme, I had a bird, its name was Enza, I opened the window and influenza. Although there is no official count of the number of children who passed away in Huntsville during the pandemic or how many people were buried in Maple Hill, it is likely that hundreds perished, leading to this park being extremely haunted. Number 8, Hell's Gate Bridge. Hell's Gate Bridge in Oxford, Alabama is considered to be the most haunted bridge in the state. The bridge's name was inspired by the legend of a young couple whose car drove off the bridge and into the waters below in the 1950s. According to the legend, if you stop on the bridge and turn off your lights, a member of the couple will enter your car and leave a wet spot on the seats. This eerie story is why the bridge is considered to be very haunted. But it is not just a couple that haunts Hell's Gates Bridge. It is also said that if you stop on the bridge and look over your shoulder, the road behind you will resemble the fiery gates of hell. This frightening tale has led many visitors to the bridge seeking to experience the supernatural for themselves. Although the Oxford Paranormal Society conducted an investigation in 2007 and found no evidence of paranormal activity, there are still many locals who claim to have had a ghostly encounter at this bridge. Despite the bridge's reputation, local officials have closed it off to any sort of vehicles due to safety concerns, but visitors are able to still walk across it if they dare. While the old bridge is falling apart, it is an unforgettable experience to walk on it, even in the daylight. Whether or not the stories behind the haunted bridge in Alabama are true, the legend of Hell's Gate Bridge continues to live on and attract visitors from far and wide. If you are brave enough to walk across this historic bridge, you will be forever changed. Number 7, the Sloss Furnaces. Birmingham, Alabama was founded in 1871 with the aim of becoming a major center for America's industrial age, taking advantage of its rich deposits of iron ore, coal, and limestone. The city was nicknamed the Magic City, and one of its key attractions was the Sloss Furnaces, built by James Wither Sloss in 1881. The furnaces were dangerous and men worked 12-hour days facing danger at every single turn. Many workers died from accidents, including falling into molten steel or suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning. There's even a story of a worker who was dragged into gears during his lunch break. The furnaces were known for paranormal activity as well, with reports of screams, apparitions, and the presence of slag, which is a cruel foreman. On September 9, 1887, worker Richard Jowers fell into molten steel and was incinerated. It is rumored that his bones were removed, but his remains were lost completely. Today, Sloss Furnaces is a national landmark and still echoes with the sounds of his perilous past. It is possible that the workers who lost their lives at these furnaces still haunt the grounds, reminding the city of their sacrifice. Number 6, the Downey Booger. The legend of the Downey Booger dates back to the late 1800s in Winston County, Alabama. Known for its rugged men, whiskey, and Saturday night dances, Winston County was also infamous for the strange creature that had been sighted by John and Joe Downey while they were returning home from a dance. The creature, which had both human and animal-like features, had frightened the cousins' horses and caused them to run in the opposite direction. Later, a family returning from a church service and Jim Jackson, who was transporting moonshine to a mining town, also reported encounters with this creature. Jim Jackson fired twice at this creature, causing it to scream like a woman and limp on 3 feet. A posse formed to find this creature, but all they found were traces of blood leading from the sand bed to a distant cliff. The true identity of this creature still remains a mystery to this day, and its strange appearance and haunting screams continues to be retold among the residents of Winston County. In the hump of our list, we have the Alabama White Thing. The mystery of the Alabama White Thing has been the subject of much speculation and storytelling for nearly a century. Originating in the Triangle region between Morgan, Etowah, and Jefferson counties, this creature is described as being over 7 feet tall and covered in long white hair. It is known for its lightning fast speed and eerie screech that sounds like a woman's scream or a panther's roar. There has been numerous sightings of the White Thing in Happy Hollow, Walnut Grove, and Moody's Chapel. Some people believe it could be an albino Bigfoot or a large albino bear. Peter J. Gossett, a historian of Winston County, heard the story of the White Thing from his aunt, Fenata Martin Smith. She told him of a man named George Norris who had a close encounter with the creature in Enon Graveyard. According to Smith, Norris described the White Thing as having the appearance of a lion with a bushy, slick tail. He said it was looking at him when he woke up one morning to find it laying next to him, but it didn't seem to pose a threat. Number 4, the Drish House. The Drish House in Tuscaloosa, Alabama has a rich history that dates back to 1837. Built by Dr. John R. Drish, a physician and prominent home builder in the area, the 2-story Greek Revival style home was once part of a 450-acre plantation. Drish employed slave artisans for his plasterwork projects, and his success in the field led him to marrying a wealthy widow named Sarah Owen McKinney. But the Drish House is not just known for its rich history, but also for its notorious reputation as being one of the most haunted sites in Tuscaloosa. The spirits of the original occupants are said to still haunt the house, including Dr. Drish, Sarah Drish, and Catherine, which is the daughter of the Drish family. In 1969, author Catherine Tucker Wyndham published a book about 13 ghost stories in Alabama. And the second chapter, called Death Lights in the Tower, tells the story of a mysterious phantom fire that occurred on the Drish House Tower after the passing of Sarah Drish. Number 3, the Bear Creek Swamp. Bear Creek Swamp, located in Autauga County between Prattville and Autaugaville, has been a source of ghost stories for many years. A woman who is said to be searching for her missing child is said to roam the swamp at all hours, with some claiming that the baby drowned there and others saying that the children was kidnapped by indigenous people. According to the legend, if someone visits the swamp at midnight and chants, "I have your baby," 3 times, the woman will appear, kind of like Bloody Mary. Many people have reported sightings of apparitions that resemble indigenous people and early settlers, as well as phantom lights and cackling laughter in the area. The legend of Bear Creek Swamp becomes more intriguing in November 2014 when the Autauga County Sheriff's Office recovered 21 dolls that had been mysteriously stuck into the marshland. Although the Sheriff's Office never determined who placed the dolls there, officials just believed it to be a Halloween prank. But was it really? Number 2, the Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment. This experiment was designed to observe the effects of syphilis when untreated. It was conducted in 1932 by the US Public Health Service with 600 African Americans recruited from Alabama. The men consisted of 399 with latent syphilis and 201 as a control group with no syphilis. They agreed to the study because they were promised free healthcare, which they never got, and were originally told that they were being treated for bad blood. These men were given only placebos such as aspirin and mineral supplements, rather than being treated with penicillin, which was the recommended treatment at the time. Many participants of the study died, went blind, or got driven to insanity, while others suffered other severe health complications due to the untreated syphilis. The story ended up arising back in 1972, and by that time, 28 more participants perished. 100 had passed away from related issues, 40 spouses were diagnosed with it, and the disease got even passed down to 19 of their children. Despite an apology from President Clinton in 1997, the damages had already been done. Number 1, Hugging Molly. The small town of Abbeville in Alabama is known for many things, but one of its most famous legends is that of Hugging Molly. According to the local folklore, Hugging Molly is a tall figure dressed in all black, including a wide-brimmed hat, who wanders the street of Abbeville at night looking for children to hug. Although the origin of the legend is unclear, there are several different theories as to who or what Hugging Molly really is. One theory is that Hugging Molly was a woman who lost her own child and as a result goes after the local children to make up for it. Another theory suggests that Hugging Molly was a professor at the Alabama Agricultural School and her intention was to keep the students safe by getting them off the streets at night. There's also others who believe that Hugging Molly was murdered in cold blood on the very streets she now haunts and is trying to fulfill something. Despite the frightening appearance of this haunting Molly, there has never been any reports of harm caused by her. In fact, she's almost a part of the community and town history, with local residents even being named after her. With so many different interpretations, it is really difficult to determine the truth behind the story of her. But one thing is for sure, on a cold, dark, and rainy night, Hugging Molly still roams the street of Abbeville, seeking out children to hug.
Starting off this countdown at number 10, La Plaza Mansion. La Plaza Mansion has made an appearance on many TV shows about ghosts and is known to be one of the most haunted places in the United States. The previous owner started freaking out when bad things started happening in the house. He tried to confront the evil spirit, but it was rumored that he was choked until he almost passed away. He was fortunate to have escaped, and the house currently remains vacant with no one inside. Well, no one living there, I guess. It's believed the mob in Las Vegas owned this house. Upon investigation, they discovered a room covered with dry blood. It's speculated that the mob used this room to perform executions. While no one has dared to live in the house after that one man, no one has also ever dared to tear it down out of fear. Now at number 9, the Sphinx. A geographic phenomenon serves as the source for an urban legend that continues to intrigue and mystify people to this day. If you traveled through Nevada, you've probably noticed how Nevada's rivers empty into small lakes that don't have any visible outlets. These lakes are called sinks, referring to the way that the water simply sinks away. An urban legend says that the sinking water is to God, who after creating the Mississippi and Missouri rivers decided to make a third river in Nevada that was bigger than the others. God spent time creating 8 smaller rivers that would forge together to make one big river, but he ran out of time and decided to finish the work later. God tucked in the ends of the rivers overnight to keep them safe, but when the next day came, he forgot about them, and the 8 rivers were left alone, leading nowhere and eventually emptying into the sinks. Now coming in at number 8, bodies in the Hoover Dam. Sometimes urban legends become so popular that people start believing it's a fact. And here's just one example. The Hoover Dam was built in the 1930s. During its construction, 96 workers unfortunately lost their lives, but popular belief says the number could be much higher. More disturbing than that is that it's said that 7 bodies were allegedly never removed from the dam because they fell through gaps and were buried in the concrete. Coming in at number 7, corpse under the bed. I'm sure you guys have all heard about this one before, but let's talk about it again. This urban legend is one that has done the rounds across the United States. The general story is that guests will stay at a cheap hotel for the night. They will enjoy a great night's sleep before waking up in the morning to smell something very pungent and gross. Upon investigating the foul smell, the guests will discover the decomposing corpse of a victim rotting right under where they laid their head that previous night. It's alleged that this myth started in Las Vegas after gangsters would leave their murder victims under the bed in hotels. Coming in at number 6, Del H. Robinson Middle School. Kids can have a wild imagination when it comes to urban legends and myths. However, this one seems to have many witnesses to be dismissed without a thought. The students at Del H. Robinson Middle School have reported seeing a janitor walking the halls with bloody hands. Some new arrivals to the school have also claimed to see a man in their dreams after enrolling in the school. Some say that he followed them home and then disappeared. The strange twist to this Las Vegas urban legend is that all witnesses said their sightings ended when they started going to church. Halfway at number 5, the Megabucks curse. In March 2000, Cynthia J. Brennan won the life-changing Megabucks jackpot at the Desert Inn. It was a total of $34.9 million. However, tragically, Cynthia was then involved in a horrific car accident just days after the winning. The accident left her a quadriplegic and ignited rumors that the Megabucks prize was cursed. The flames of this legend were fanned even more in 2003, when it claimed that an anonymous winner of the $39.7 million Megabucks jackpot at the Excalibur Hotel unfortunately passed away after a drug overdose. Even though no official confirmation has come from winners losing their lives after winning the Megabucks jackpot, many still believe in the Megabucks curse. Previous winners have allegedly passed away in plane crashes, passed in Los Angeles gang fights, and suffered heart attacks. Now at number 4, ghost at Goldfield Hotel. There are several urban legends associated with Goldfield Hotel. The most famous urban legend is the story of Elizabeth. As legend has it, Elizabeth, who is an intimate street worker, and George Wingfield, who is a past owner, had gotten her pregnant. Because George was afraid of the publicity destroying his reputation, he chained Elizabeth to the radiator in room number 109. Supposedly, after Elizabeth gave birth, Wingfield threw the baby down an abandoned mine shaft in the basement of the hotel, and either allowed Elizabeth to pass away on her own or had someone take her life. Now at number 3, Black Market. This classic urban legend ticks all the boxes on the list for horrifying. This urban legend goes like this. One night out, some tourists met some locals in a bar and eventually have their drinks spiked, and they then wake up in a nightmare situation. If you've watched Hostel, then you'll have a rough idea of how this one goes. In 1991, one specific rumor started doing the rounds that an individual was spiking the drinks of unsuspecting drinkers on nights out in Las Vegas and stealing their kidneys to sell them for money. Victims would be sharing drinks with a charismatic stranger one minute, and the next minute they would be waking up in a hotel bathtub covered with ice and stitches on their lower back. The predator would leave a simple note stating call 911 or you'll die. Now coming in at number 2, the ghosts of the MGM Grand Fire. On the 21st of November 1980, the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino was the scene for one of the most devastating tragedies in the history of the city. A blazing fire ripped through the resort, claiming the lives of 85 people. At the time of the fire, hotels in Las Vegas were not required to have sprinkler systems installed, so this hotel didn't have one. It was said that faulty wiring is what caused the fire, and it could not be stopped in time to save the lives of those that were eventually lost. Bally's Las Vegas now stands on the site of the old hotel, and it is rumored that the ghosts of those that passed on that fateful night roam the halls of the new hotel, haunting people because no one was able to save them.
Officials later estimated the fire traveled across the casino, the length of a football field, in less than 20 seconds. Had it been later in the day, the area likely would have been jammed with gamblers. At this point, smoke rising from the MGM could be seen for miles around, and firefighters were rushing toward the MGM from all over the Las Vegas area.
Now coming in at number 1, Area 51. When you hear about urban legends associated with Las Vegas, Area 51 is usually at the top of the list. Officially called the Nevada Test and Training Range, this high-security open training range for the US Air Force in the Nevada desert has been the subject of controversy and conversation over the years. One widely held conspiracy involves Area 51 and UFOs. Some stories connected with the site suggest that the remains from a flying saucer that supposedly crashed near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947 was then transported to Area 51 for further examination. Granted, the Air Force began to investigate claims of UFO sightings in 1952, an effort that later became known as Project Blue Book. When Project Blue Book ended in 1996, the Air Force had investigated more than 12,000 UFO claims. Dr. Jeffrey T. Richardson, a former senior fellow at the George Washington University National Security Archive, did a lot of research into Area 51 during his lifetime. He reported that the CIA's Lockheed U-2 plane reconnaissance program, spy planes used to gather intelligence, was connected with Area 51. Jeffrey filed a Freedom of Information Act in 2005 to seek information about this program. In 2013, Richardson told the New York Times that after examining declassified CIA documents about activity in Area 51, quote, "The only overlap is the discussion of the U-2 flights and UFO sightings. The fact that you had these high-flying aircrafts in the air being the cause of some of the sightings." So what do you think really goes on at Area 51? Starting out this countdown at number 10, Spirit Lake origins. Spirit Lake's name is said to be no mystery to those who live in Idaho. The story goes that years ago, a young Native American woman began a relationship with a brave man from a rival tribe. Unable to wed but determined to preserve their doomed love, the two tied their wrists together in symbolic marriage and jumped from a cliff into the lake where others tend to go to take their lives. It's said that on the moonlit nights you can see their shadowy spirits drifting across the lake in a phantom canoe, while mournful sounds fill the air as the Indian lovers seek release from their watery grave. Now here at number 9, Coyote and the Seven Devils. The Seven Devils form a portion of the Idaho-Oregon border, as well as line the most treasured river canyon called Hell's Canyon. The Nez Perce in particular had origin stories for nearly every feature of Idaho's diverse landscape, and the story of the Seven Devils is a unique one. Many years ago, there were 7 child-eating giant brothers who lived on the horizon. The people were terrified of these giants. They sent word to Coyote to help them defeat the giants and save their children. Coyote knew he couldn't battle 7 giants at once, so he dug massive holes in the earth and filled them with boiling liquid. As the giants were traveling east to snatch more children, they tripped into the holes and were trapped. Coyote was then able to transform the giants into stone, and he opened up a canyon at their feet to keep them from ever reaching the villages again. Coming in at number 8, Idaho doesn't exist. According to dozens of web pages which have genuinely called into question the very existence of Idaho as a physical location, the gem state simply doesn't exist, people say. People say it's down to 3 premises. Do you know anybody from Idaho? Have you ever been to Idaho? Do you know anyone who's ever been to Idaho? For most, the answer is no. Therefore, that's why people say Idaho doesn't exist. In fact, the general consensus is that Idaho was put on the map because cartographers needed a barrier to separate Utah from Canada and protect Montana from Washington, or vice versa. One explanation is that Idaho is a government-operated mind control vacuum. Another theory is that Idaho exists, but only as a state of mind. The whole debacle stirs up an abundance of very real philosophical arguments, but according to conspiracy logic, if you feel like you're living in Idaho right now, odds are it is simply the result of other conspiracies at work. Now personally, I don't believe this one, but there are some people who really full-heartedly believe it. Here at number 7, Charlie. The legend of Charlie the lake monster was first recorded in the early 1920s when railroad workers in McCall saw something unexplainable. In McCall, locals will tell you the tale of this creature. Charlie has been known as Slimy Slim and the Twilight Dragon of Payette Lake. Over the years, this serpent-like creature with a dragon head has made many appearances. Most think it's a log before it rises up to reveal its head. The last documented sighting came in 2002, but in 1954, the Payette Lake Star newspaper held a contest challenging readers to come up with a name for this elusive creature. The winner was Leigh Isle Henneferturi of Springfield, who came up with the name Charlie. Charlie continued to be spotted over the years, but it has been seen less and less frequently. It is reported to be between 10 and 50 feet long, brownish green, having a shell, and travels in serpent-like waves, rising and falling out of the water. But this gentle beast garners nothing but love from locals, who can't seem to recall an incident when Charlie attacked any of the lakeside city's residents. Very much like the Loch Ness Monster, except the Loch Ness Monster doesn't get as much love, and it seems like every place has its own version of a monster in a body of water. Number 6, Idaho is purposely drugging its residences. In 1947, it's said that Lewiston began adding fluoride into its water, as did the vast majority of United States cities, a practice which still exists today. Many suspected, however, that the addition of fluoride, which is approved as an easy way to cut down on widespread tooth decay, was in fact a large-scale attempt to underhandedly medicate Idaho's citizens, as well as a means of covering up the drastic lack of dental care provided for the state's working people who were poor. The dramatic decrease in childhood cavity levels recorded by 1950 supported the practice as a whole, but to this day, fluoride is still majorly opposed for a variety of reasons, including links to cancer and bone loss. Halfway at number 5, Lake Pend. This deep ocean-like lake in northern Idaho is said to be the perfect place for a monstrous beast to reside. It is said to be large, gray, and prehistoric in shape and size. Locals claim he is an unknown remnant of the Jurassic era that has managed to survive extinction, against all odds. Up until this point, the creature has remained a peaceful part of local lore, although many say that sightings of the sea creature were merely glimpses of Naval Training Station's top-secret submarine and technological testing. Coming in at number 4, Civic Theater. Before this building housed the Lewiston Civic Theater, it was a Methodist church built in 1904. In 1972, it became a theater, and in 1982, 2 women and 1 man all mysteriously disappeared from the theater on the same night. Both women were found unfortunately deceased off of the property 2 years later, suspected to be victims of a homicide. The man, however, was never found, and his mystery remains unsolved. Whether or not these 3 people haunt the building, there have been numerous sightings of other ghosts in the theater. Actors and theatergoers have seen apparitions of a red-haired man, a spectacled presence in the mailroom, and an elderly gentleman in the doorway. A ghost of a director has been seen in the balcony, and apparently a bride weaves herself through the seats. Here at number 3, Massacre Rocks Water Babies. This one comes from Pocatello, where you can hear the crying of babies late at night if you sit by the river alone in the dark. Many believe that it's the sound of babies that mothers were forced to take the lives of during a famine rather than watch them starve till they passed away. Some think that these babies grew gills and learned to survive. Depending on the story you hear, a water baby is said to be a spirit or monster traditionally seen as a Native American bred urban legend of small childlike creatures living in the waters of reservations around the western United States. It is rumored that they are tricksters whose main goal is to take the lives of others. Coming in at number 2, the Murder House. The Murder House of Boys was the site of the vicious passing of Preston Murr more than 30 years ago. After an argument broke out in the basement of the house between Murr and 2 men, Murr was shot and then hacked into pieces that were dumped 100 miles away from Brownlee Reservoir. His body parts surfaced and led investigators back to the house, which is allegedly still haunted today. Many former residents and visitors of the house have said that the basement has a very creepy feeling. Even footsteps from an invisible person have been heard. There are also legends about the house that say bloodstains appear and then disappear, and a woman in old-fashioned clothing has been seen looking out the window.
Now the rumor is that this 21-year-old man will forever haunt this home, and even non-believers believe it's created an urban legend.
Living there, I really don't feel that I was never afraid or felt that it was haunted, but there are so many stories. I mean, everybody's convinced that it is.
Now here at our number 1 spot, the Phantom Jogger of Canyon Hill. At Cadwell's Canyon Hill Cemetery, it's said that the ghosts don't like when you stare at their graves late at night. According to the legend, if you park between the 2 trees across the street from the entrance at midnight, you will see something quite terrifying. Make sure to turn your lights off though, so you can see the legless jogger when she knocks on your window. After you've completely freaked out and almost totally lost your mind, she leaves just as quickly as she came. Someone has said that they parked in this spot to investigate, but they did it at noon, so it wasn't very dark. They said they didn't see any ghosts, but that it was still very creepy. Starting off at number 10, Gitche-Manitou Murders. The Gitche-Manitou is a nature preserve just southeast of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in the northeastern corner of Iowa that many believe is haunted. It has ancient Native American burial grounds, has witnessed the execution of 4 teens, and has been the site of an assault of a young child. In November of 1973, 5 teens from Sioux Falls went out camping in the area. The unsuspecting group was sitting by a fire with some green leafy substances when suddenly a shotgun went off. Roger S.M., who was 17, instantly passed away by brothers Alan, David, and James Fryer, who descended on the group pretending to be cops. They separated the remaining 3 boys from the only girl, 13-year-old Sandra Chesky. and placed the girl in the back of their truck. Then the Fryer brothers lined up Stuart Bade, 15, with his little brother Dana Bade, 14, and friend Michael Hardoth, who was 15, and executed them. The little girl was kept alive and taken advantage of by James Fryer. She later identified the attackers and testified against them. They were sentenced to life in prison, but locals on both sides, Iowa and South Dakota, believe their horrible crimes still haunt the area. Number 9. Spook Road. Known to locals as Spook Road, this eerie stretch just outside of Brandon, South Dakota has quite the collection of creepy occurrences. Winding through tunnels, running over bridges, and lined in trees, locals claim this road is especially unnerving in the fall of winter months. There are many theories about the road, including one claim if you drive away from the town and count the number of turns, and then drive back and count them, you will end up with different numbers. Like driving in one direction will take you over 5 bridges, but on the way back you'll only cross 4. As if this wasn't weird enough, many cars have also wrecked on this road, which often leaves drivers with an unsettled feeling. While some people believe Spook Road is mere folklore, others will defend it to the end, with some die-hard believers even creating a Facebook group about Spook Road. Allegedly, people who also take their own lives here can still be seen hanging from both bridges and the trees, their bulging eyes watching you as you cross in horror. Number 8. Orpheum Theater. In Sioux Falls, South Dakota sits the historic Orpheum Theater, with its very own ghost. The spirit, fondly referred to as Larry, may or may not be the ghost of an actor who disappeared during a dress rehearsal many years ago. Allegedly, the sound of a gunshot rang out from the light booth. When his fellow actors ran up to investigate, all that remained was a pool of blood and no body was ever found. The theater first opened in 1913, but changed hands in 1954. The new owners allegedly found a casket in the boiler room, but when they came back later to clean things out, the casket was gone. Reports of strange noises and sightings of a shadow figure became common in the old theater, and one of the more intriguing reports happened in 1959. Actor Ray Loftusness became one of the many to see this shadow man on the balcony. On that particular night, he said Larry was illuminated by the green and blue lights that was pointing directly at him. He claimed that he was hit by an icy blast of air. Then twice that night, he was assaulted by falling sandbags and was even knocked unconscious. Number 7. Sitka Hollow. The Dakota Sioux Native Americans were said to have once hunted in the forest ravines known as Sitka Hollow. That is, until they realized it was haunted and put a warning on its name. Sitka means evil, and there are several legends that have come out of the state park. It's believed evil is steeped into every nook and cranny of this area, which is why water runs red in the Sitka Hollow Springs. Never mind the mineral content, it's pure evil. The path referred to as the Trial of Spirits has bubbling red bogs and was believed by the Sioux to be the flesh and blood of their ancestors. Between all the red water, swamp gas, and tree stumps glowing in the dark, it's no wonder they thought this place was evil. Perhaps they were right. There was a rash of mysterious disappearances in the 1970s. Paired with sightings of a half-man, half-beast similar to Bigfoot in these woods. Even today, visitors have claimed to see spirits of Indians in addition to hearing voices, war cries, and chanting. This one certainly seems terrifying for sure, and definitely not a place I would want to visit. Number 6. 1880 Train Haunting. The 1880 train that runs through Hill City is rumored to be another one of the most haunted places in South Dakota. While some of the train cars are used at the current tourist attraction, many remain abandoned. Some employees have specifically mentioned seeing a man standing in the back of the eating car, only to disappear seconds later. It said that the man was crossing the tracks and accidentally got stuck and unfortunately passed away while trying to break free, and his soul now haunts the train that took his life. Trains didn't really freak me out before, but now hearing this story, I'm pretty freaked out. Halfway at number 5, Walking Sam. The Pine Ridge Indian Reservation has had an alarmingly high rate of people taking their own lives amongst their youth, and it's believed an urban legend is responsible for this. The land is being stalked by an evil, an ancient entity that takes the form of Walking Sam, like the Tall Man, Slender Man, and the long-feared Stickman. This creature feeds on the living, infecting their minds and altering their thoughts. In the case of Walking Sam, his evil bidding is collecting the souls of people who take their own lives so he doesn't have to wander the earth alone. He stands around 7 feet tall, has no mouth, and has gangly limbs. When his arms are outstretched, you can see the bodies of Lakota men and women hanging from them. Since December of 2014, Pine Ridge has had 103 attempts of people trying to take their own life, with 9 people unfortunately succeeding. The youngest was only 12 and the oldest was just 24. Thankfully, church leader Pastor John Tubles discovered and prevented one of these plans from being carried out. He and a few other adults found a group of teenagers with rope already hanging from the trees. Another group of teens, all female, tried to carry out a similar plan but were stopped in time. But no one has been able to answer the biggest question: why? Tribe leaders, local mental health professionals, and law enforcement are scratching their heads on what is causing this. Number 4, Little Devils. The Spirit Mound near Vermilion has been long feared by Native Americans. They wouldn't dare go near it because of the legend of the Little Devils, who guard the mound mounds, attacking anyone who tries to climb them with magic arrows. The legend was first documented in 1804 and tells of the massacre that makes the mounds taboo today. However, people say it seems to have existed since long before then. Somewhere around the mid-18th century, hundreds of Indian warriors allegedly attempted to rid the world of evil little creatures, but it was they who ended up slaughtered instead. So now they stay away and leave the mounds to little devils. Number 3, Hooky Jack. A famous ghost from Rapid City, South Dakota is Hooky Jack. In life, his name was John Leary, but after a mining explosion in the 1800s, he lost both of his arms and one eye. His arms were replaced with hooks, hence the name Hooky Jack. He became a Rapid City police officer, but tragically passed away after being struck by a car in 1926. Now his spirit is said to haunt his former residence, which has since been converted into a tavern. According to legend, Hooky Jack lived on the 3rd floor and can still be heard roaming up there today. Employees don't even want to venture to that floor unless they absolutely must. Many employees have even refused to work the closing shift alone. Voices, rattling, and eerie sounds can all be heard upstairs at night. Strange flashing lights and spirit orbs have been caught on security footage. Multiple witnesses have seen chairs, tables, and the billiard balls moving around the table on their own. A few bartenders even claim to have seen a figure sit at the end of the bar out of the corner of their eye, only to look up and realize no one's there. Number 2, Devil's Gulch. One of the most famous urban legends in South Dakota happened in the town of Garriston. According to the local lore, infamous outlaw Jesse James successfully evaded capture in 1876 by leaping over the Devil's Gulch on horseback. Keep in mind that the Devil's Gulch is a ravine that runs 60 feet deep and is 20 feet wide. Jumping over something that massive without spooking a horse is highly improbable, and most historians would say it's impossible, but that doesn't stop locals from swearing it happened. Number 1, Hotel Alex Johnson. A hotel so surely haunted they actually advertise it right on their website. Come take a tour or stay at this haunted mansion. One of the main ghosts claimed to be seen here is the hotel's namesake, Alex Johnson himself. It is said that he comes around to make sure the hotel is still running well, but does he have any malicious intent? Why don't you book a stay and test the theory yourself? If you dare, that is.
At number 10 spot, we have Alti the Sea Monster. In southeastern Georgia along the 137-mile-long Altamaha River, some say a gigantic sea monster is lurking in the depths, with reports dating back all the way to the 1800s. Alti, or by its original name Altamaha, is a river sea monster that was first discovered by Captain Delano of the schooner Eagle. He described the creature being 7 feet long with a circumference the size of a barrel and a head resembling that of an alligator. Reports of the creature started to amass, with every description describing it as a 20 to 30 feet long sturgeon-like fish, but in my opinion this thing just looks like a distant relative to the Loch Ness Monster. Do you see it? Other reports claim that the creature was over 60 feet long as well. Over the years there are many sightings of Alti and they remain consistent in their descriptions. Then more recently a video of Jeff Warren shared an identified creature that could resemble Alti, but you guys be the judge of that one. At a number 9 spot we have Winecoff Hotel. After its completion in 1912 it was renowned as being a fireproof building due to its steel construction. It is located in the heart of downtown Atlanta. It was grand, it was modern at the time, but for some reason the hotel only had one staircase, which turned out to be a huge fatal mistake later on. Then on December 7, 1946, a fire engulfed the entire hotel, which also happened to be the most deadliest hotel fire in US history, killing a total of 119 people. The fire started on the 3rd floor, which only meant that everyone from the 3rd to 15th floor had no way of escaping the building because of the one staircase. While some managed to jump out of their windows into the nets firemen were holding, the majority of people would be leaping to their death. The hotel has since been rebuilt, but much of the charred past remains inside of the building. At a number 8 spot we have the Weeping Statue of Gracie. This statue is located in Bonaventure Cemetery, which was established all the way back in 1846. Although the cemetery contains many different beautiful statues, the statue of Gracie is the one that sticks out to almost all visitors. Gracie Watson was born in 1882 and grew up in the Pulaski House Hotel that her parents WJ and Frances Watson ran. Unfortunately, when Gracie was only 7 years old, she contracted pneumonia and passed away on April 22nd, 1889. So in honor of her untimely death, a beautiful statue of her sitting was built. Nowadays, many guests leave offerings and gifts, such as toys, flowers, and knives gifts for her, but when people try to steal these gifts, she will cry tears of blood. And some have even said her statue comes alive at night, with visitors seeing an empty seat on her statue. At our number 7 spot, we have the Georgia Guidestones. This is considered as America's version version of Stonehenge, and you can probably see why. Not only are they both large creations with stone, but they are both shrouded in complete mystery and speculation. The Georgia Guidestones were erected in the 1980s by an anonymous man under the name of Robert C. Christian. This astronomically aligned monument is made up of a solid granite, with each of the slabs weighing around 20 tons. Written on these stones are 8 different languages, which include Arabic, Chinese, English, Hebrew, Hindi, Russian, Spanish, and Swahili. The reason it was built in the first place was to prepare humanity for a plan just in case of an upcoming apocalypse. One of the things that was noted on this was to keep humanity under the population of 500 million people, to keep us in perpetual balance with nature. With the population of 7 billion, I can see why this is kind of scary to look at. You can pause the video now if you want to see the whole entire list. However, some believe this monument has ties with the Illuminati or the New World Order, and on July 6th of the same year, the monument was completely destroyed by an explosion by an unknown individual, who could also be tied to these organizations, who knows. At number 6 spot, we have Patriots Inn. This hotel in Augusta, Georgia was built all the way back in 1816, starting off as a simple 2-story home. As the time went on, the building underwent new expansions and eventually was able to house enough people to become a hotel. The haunting story of the hotel was about a lady named Emily. She was extremely excited for a wedding and was awaiting her husband, who was arriving at the inn by horseback. Except when a knock came on her door, it wasn't her husband, but the news that he was mistaken for a soldier charged with treason and was shot to death on the spot. Her hopes of getting married and having a happy life ended immediately. She would wear her wedding gown for months and would eventually pass away brokenhearted. Now guests claim that she is still waiting for her fiancé at the hotel. They report seeing her walk up and down the staircase and pacing through the hallways in her own wedding gown. Right in the hump of our list, we have the Crybaby Bridge. I've done a Crybaby Bridge in my past videos, but I'm pretty sure there's one in every single state. Have a bridge and have a crying baby and boom, Crybaby Bridge. This bridge in Columbus, Georgia was created back in the 1800s. At the time, a poor farmer family in the area was expecting their 5th child. Knowing they couldn't afford to care for another child, the family arranged for the doctor to dispose of the baby right after birth. Now here is where it gets kind of dark. Instead of finding a humane way to deal with the baby, the doctor had more malicious intents, and he took the baby to this bridge and dropped it into the water below. Now that's the story, but people say if you drive to this bridge on a cloudless night with a full moon, and if you sprinkle baby powder on your car, you'll be able to hear the baby crying below the bridge. And some say that you can see baby footprints in the baby powder that you put. At number 4 spot, we have the Concord Creech Bridge. This rooftop bridge is located in the town of Smyrna. It was built in 1872, and since then some haunted deaths occurred in, outside, under, and beside this bridge. Nowhere is safe. It's said that the waterheads haunt the forest and below the bridge. They are the children who were used for human experimentation and left to pass away by this bridge. Many other children were taken here only to meet their end as well. Now it's said that if you park on the bridge, turn off your car lights, and leave a Snickers bar on your car, you'll hear quiet footsteps approaching your car, and soon after the Snicker bars will be removed from the car. All the way at a number 3 spot, we have the statue of Corinne Lawton. Aside from the weeping statue of Gracie, the Bonaventure Cemetery also has the famous statue of Corinne Elliott Lawton. She was the daughter of the well-to-do brigade general in the Civil War, Alexander Robert Lawton. Legend goes that she wanted to marry someone who was in a lower social class, so because of this, the father denied it and forced her to marry one of the most wealthiest men in all of Savannah. When she met him, she told the father she couldn't do it, but the wedding was still forced. On the day of the wedding, she was angry and heartbroken and took herself to the banks of the river and proceeded to drown herself. The odd thing about her statue is that it's facing away from her family's tomb, which many people say is a way to show that she went against her family's will even after death. Many paranormal investigators have attempted to speak to Corinne over the years with some compelling evidence, so go search it up on YouTube if you want. At our number 2 spot, we have Lake Lanier. Couldn't mention Georgia without Lake Lanier because most of the people in the state know everything there needs to know about this infamous lake and the town that surrounds it. Some people come to this lake mostly to have a good time, but others in Georgia choose to stay far away from this body of water because this is where many drownings and boat accidents occur. And since its creation back in 1956, the lake has claimed the lives of over 700 people, which just makes this lake a cemetery in my opinion. Many blame the ancestral ghosts in the area. This is because many forget that the town around the lake was named Oscarville, which was home to over 1,000 African African Americans who wanted to escape racial inequality. However, in 1912, a young white woman named May Crow was found dead in the woods, and many blamed it on these two young black men. This caused an enraged mob to drive the whole black community out of the town, with houses burning down and some people passing away. Now this could explain all the restless ghosts in the area. This was a terrible event in US history, and it's no surprise this place is haunted. At number 1 spot, we have the old governor's mansion. Located in Milledgeville, this estate was built in 1840 after a fire burned down the original Capitol building in 1931. And more famously, the President of the Confederate States of America, Jefferson Davis, was laid to state there, which is the tradition in which the body of a deceased official is placed in a state building. Now over the years, visitors report smelling burnt cigars, keys jingling when no one's around, broken glass, a woman's screams, and books falling from the 3rd floor. When paranormal investigators checked out the place, they claimed the most activity was in the mansion's library, which is the same place where many guests asked the workers if something happened in the library in the past, because when they walked through it, they claimed to sense a presence watching them. At a number 10 spot, we have the Torch Lake Monster. This one is pretty much well known all over Michigan, but for those who don't know, the tale of the Torch Lake Monster dates back to the early 1960s and 70s. Obviously, it takes place in Torch Lake, which is located in North Michigan, and it also is the 2nd largest lake in the state. A fisherman and coach by the name of Dave Foley is credited with spotting the creature first and telling the stories of it since he worked by the lake for a while. Legend goes that the giant creature has a lizard's body, the head of a cat, 1 brown eye, and 1 blue eye, along with slimy green skin. The lake is approximately 285 feet deep, which makes what lies underneath much more scary and worrisome. Nighttime is when this creature is said to arise from the depths. At this time, many swimmers and boats go missing, only to wash ashore with no evidence of its demise. At a number 9 spot, we have the singing sands of Beat Gris. Located just past Lac La Belle, Michigan, is a beautiful white sandy beach known as Beat Gris. In a direct translation, this means gray beast, and that's because a large gray creature was said to have inhabited the area many years ago, but that's not even the story I'm going to talk about. Local legends claim that the pure white sand of the beach sings by pressing down your palms on it, or it barks when you strike it. The sound is said to be the voice of a Native American maiden who lost her lover when he drowned in the Great Lakes, and now she calls him on shore. The sand is said to lose its magical singing power when it's removed from the beach. Now visitors claim to hear the singing sounds, but as many try to bring the sound back home, they are met with years of unlimited bad luck, which lead many to bring it back to the beach to allow it to sing again. Other than sand that makes sounds, at a number 8 spot with the Belle Isle's Lady in White. In Detroit, Michigan, there's an island called Belle Isle. This 982-acre island is used for picnics, hikes, and home of the only marble lighthouse. Other than that, everything else on this island is shrouded in mystery and up for speculation. Legend of the island follows the story of a chief's daughter and a haunting bridge. The chief was concerned that his daughter's beauty would attract vast amounts of suitors, so to combat this, he made a deal with the snake goddess of the island. The chief asked the goddess to protect his daughter. The goddess would agree, but not for nothing. She would ask for the daughter to live out the rest of her days on the island to protect it, never being able to leave it. And to this day, the daughter is said to stay on this island and walk it, with many visitors reporting that she would try to lure them into the forest by telling them that she is looking for someone and just needs help. She supposedly takes her victims to the bridge to drown them, and it's said that if you go on this bridge and honk 3 times, she will appear just before your eyes. At number 7 spot with the Nain Rouge. It's said that since the city of Detroit was founded in Michigan, bad luck has befallen the area. This is all because of the devilish red imp known as the Nain Rouge had cursed the entire city. Local folklore suggests that the Detroit's founder, Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac, was warned by a fortune teller that he would come face to face with the Nain Rouge and to treat him with the most utmost respect and attention. Except this information came straight this ear and right out the other, because when he finally met with this creature, he hit it with his crane and told it to stay out of his way. This is when the angry Nain Rouge cursed the city of Detroit and Cadillac. Shortly after this, Cadillac would lose his fortune and move back to France, but misfortune still occurred in the city. It's said that in all of the disastrous events that happened in Detroit, the Nain Rouge could be spotted just before all of them. For example, in 1763, 50 British soldiers perished from Native Americans, after which the Nain Rouge could be seen dancing in the aftermath in joy. Then in the surrender of the war in 1812, the Nain was blamed again for its presence. It had also been seen during Detroit's riots of 1967 and 1976's ice storm that caused electricity to go out for days. At a number 6 spot with the Masonic Temple. Currently standing as the largest Masonic temple in the world, it also stands as one of the most haunted places in all of Michigan. The temple, designed by George D. Mason, is an imposing Gothic structure at the corner of Bagg Street, later Temple Street, and 2nd Avenue across from Cass Park. The temple has over 1,000 rooms, secret stairways, and concealed passages, but unfortunately Mason would go a little too far in this construction where it would cause him to go bankrupt, eventually losing his wife in the process. His depression slowly kicked in, and then he would jump off the roof of this temple to his death. And to this day, security guards claim to see old George's ghost climbing those steps to the rooftop. Visitors also reported many noises such as doors and windows being slammed shut. They also see moving shadows and experience cold spots all around the area, all while feeling as if they're being watched by something. Right in the hub of our list, we have the Michigan Triangle. Well, guess Michigan has their own version of Bermuda's Devil Triangle, and it contains just as much unexplained phenomena as Bermuda. The triangle goes from Manawak, Wisconsin to Ludington to Benton Harbor in Michigan. It was in early spring 1937 when Captain Donner was just managing his freighter ship called the O.S. McFarland through these icy waters. He was so tired, so he decided to go to sleep and asked for one of the crewmates to wake him up when they approached shore. As they did, they noticed his room was locked, so they looked around, but nothing. They then kicked the door down and found that he vanished with no signs whatsoever. Now the triangle claims the lives of many ships and planes just like Bermuda. People have also cited the O.S. McFarland, but as they try to get a closer look, it disappears into the waters. An odd thing about this place is when that divers go to check the wreckages of ships and planes, they notice that everything is still intact, including the bodies of the deceased and the ship as a whole. This is by far the scariest triangle because there is no way around it other than land. So basically there's no point in traveling in Michigan's Great Lakes. At our number 4 spot is Hell's Bridge. Back in the early 1900s, an old deranged man named Elias Frist led a group of kids to the bridge and proceeded to murder each and every single one of them, slowly throwing them into the river below. Eventually he was caught and hung by the townspeople. Before he passed away, he made a confession claiming that he did this because he was possessed by the devil and they told him to do it. To this day, a lot of visitors to the bridge hear the screams and the cries from the children just before they pass away. People have also stated that when they get home from this place, they find bruises on their body as if someone was reaching out to grab them or hit them. The worst part is that if you walk on this bridge at night, you can feel hands below you as if they're grabbing you from the river below. And at the end of the bridge, you might encounter Elias as a dark figure with glowing eyes, so you won't miss him in the dead of night. In more lesser known news, apparently you're able to sell your soul to the devil by meeting the devil in the middle of this bridge. I mean, it's called Hell's Bridge. What else did we expect? At our number 3 spot, we have the Dogman. The Dogman is described as a 7-foot tall, amber-eyed, bipedal, canine-like creature, and he has the head of a dog with the body and torso of a human. Ever since its original sighting in 1887, many more sightings were spotted all over Michigan. It's primarily spotted in the northwestern quadrant of the Lower Peninsula. Back to its original sighting back in 1887. This is when the Dogman was discovered by 2 lumberjacks who saw this creature in the distance. Things got a little more concerning when in 1937, Robert Forney was attacked by 5 wild dogs, describing that of one of the dogs allegedly stood up like a bipedal and was significantly larger than all the other dogs. This legend got more popular when disc jockey Steve Cook recorded a song called The Legend, which describes the Michigan's Dogman. Although the artist claims it was made for an April Fool's joke, this kickstarted the entire legend, and sightings of the Dogman would only rise after the song was released. At a number 2 spot with Melonhead. Locals fear of humanoids called the Melonheads. First theorized in the 1970s, Melonheads are said to be completely bald with misshapen bulbous heads, deformed arms and legs, teeth like daggers, and luminous red eyes. Legend goes that Melonheads reside around Felt Mansion, which is home to Dora Felt, who is an American inventor. The Melonheads were said to be the children suffering from hydrocephalus, which causes your head to expand in some cases. They were located at the Junction Insane Asylum near the home, and it's said that they endured months and months of abuse, and that one day they decided to escape and run into the forests of Michigan, where they became animal-like and very feral. Many of these Melonheads are said to be looking for the doctor who failed to care for them in order to take his life. At a number 1 spot, we have Alois Psychiatric Hospital. Located in Westland, Michigan, it was named after Detroit's postmaster Alois Davik. In 1839, it started as a poorhouse and a farm where the poor, the sick, and the needy would go for shelter and work. As time went on, the poorhouse transitioned into a psychiatric asylum and hospital. The buildings were self-sufficient, even having their own police. They were even one of the first hospitals in the world to use x-rays for diagnosis, so at least one good thing came out of here. At its peak, the place housed over 10,000 patients and over 2,000 staff members. After its closure in 1984, the hospital's abandoned grounds are said to have a few patients still left inside of it. Ghost patients, that is. There have been reports of people finding medical waste and other strange items. Some have reported finding jars containing human body parts, as well as documents outlining strange medical procedures.